forward. So it's something that actually we've touched on in the discussion that I'll come up with in a bit, but certainly it's something that we would be looking to do, but we wouldn't be able to do it for this year, but it's something that as part of the term it would be useful to initiate.
Okay, that's great. Is there any other comment? Councillor Gates.
Thanks very much. First of all, I'd like to congratulate staff, our fellow councillors, on a job well done.
Excuse me, is this in regard to the motion that's on the floor?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
No,
apologize.
okay, no problem, no problem.
My
Okay,
apologies.
I thought you were going to speak to the motion. Is this
Great one.
voting? Okay, all those is this in regard to the zero-based budget?
Yeah, you
Okay.
have to explain that
Yeah.
this time we get up to it?
What's that? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, we did zero-based budgeting back in the 1980s, and it was very successful, but you can do a form of zero-based budgeting just by having the staff examine all your programs and making sure that if it's been there for 20 years, not necessarily has to carry on. To examine it, to make sure that each one is updated, and if it's essential, then it carries on. If it's not, then it's examined more closely. The other thing that I'd like to see done with this is, and it was impossible this year, but to try to complete our budget before the end of the year. We used to consistently finish our budget before December 15th, and we had the opportunity to have a fiscal plan for the year. That is the way budgeting is done. We used to bring our budgets in March, first part of April, and all of a sudden I heard in Niagara Falls, New York, that you don't do your budget until March or April. They have to have it done over there before the end of the year. It's simply a mechanism to make sure it's accomplished. Can be done. It gives you a fiscal plan for the year. You can tender earlier. You can take advantage of all kinds of opportunities by doing that. So hopefully we can include that as part of the opportunity for next year. We have our budget completed before the end of the year.
And no doubt, and as you say, going to tender is a lot easier when you do it before they're busy. Once the trades are busy, you pay much more.
And also all of your boards and commissions and people, they know exactly where they stand, rather than getting to March or April and they have half of their budget or 20% of their budget cut. It's not very helpful. Keeps them on edge all the time. Everybody knows exactly where they stand right at January 1st.
Fair enough. Councillor Carrio.
Thank you. I wonder if we couldn't ask the agencies that come to us to go to that format as well, so that they're on the same page as we are, that they don't come to us assuming that they'll start from where they are and they'll either get what they got last year or an increase based on inflation or whatever. It would be nice if we go that way, if the agencies and groups that come to us start thinking along that line as well.
Okay. Any feedback, or we good? Yeah. Okay, great. Any other comment? Okay, we've got a motion on the floor with two parts: zero-based budgeting as one of our priorities going forward, and multi-year budgeting as well, which will help us move toward the end of Councillor Thompson's suggestion that we have our budgeting done before the end of the calendar year. Call the motion. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. That's great. Thank you very much. Were there other Councillor Gates, you wanted to speak to the presentation?
Yeah, thanks very much, Jim. I want to talk, first of all, I want to congratulate staff again. I did it a few minutes ago, but I want to congratulate them. I want to congratulate my fellow councillors on having a vision going forward. But having said that, and as Mr. Todd put forward here, infrastructure stability, and he listed them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'd like to make a suggestion that we make economic vitality number 1, and that would use our own tax dollars locally for purchasing goods and services. And the question would be asked, why would I want to do that? We have an opportunity here. We have the 3rd highest unemployment rate in Ontario, and what's really even more concerning than that is 13.9 people under 26 don't have any jobs. they're unemployed. That's very disconcerting. If you take a look at what's gone on in Ontario, and I didn't go across the country, but in Ontario, cities like Toronto, Hamilton, Sudbury, and St. Catharines just down the road all protect local workers and businesses. We need to create jobs for our children and our grandchildren so that they can stay here and raise their family like we're doing. And by doing this, I believe this takes care of the other priorities, and it will be easier to obtain them going through the list. And you say how? All suppliers and private developers report the level of local content and the level of local produced goods and services. And as you know, this was in our package that the other councillors had. We could create a measurement or a system not only based on price, but balance it with quality and the environmental impact as well. We could create an audit system to verify all those activities, and establish minimum targets for local labor content, local business, local produced goods, and I think this is a way to do this. We all around this room, and I took the time last night to go through everybody's brochures last night, we all campaign on job creation, every one of us. And here's an opportunity where we can use our own tax dollars to support local businesses and workers. And I'm going to use an example of this, and the reason why I'm going to use this is not to throw salt on a wound. It's to how do we move forward from a situation that we're just coming out of. And one of those would be the Scotiabank Convention Centre. $80 million was invested in that, and it's a great project. Everybody's happy it's here. I don't think anybody's saying it's not. The economic spin-off that it's going to create is going to be wonderful for Niagara Falls. Yet $70 million, $65 million left the area by using workers and companies from outside Niagara. I just think that is not what we should be doing. We have to find a way to put local people back to work. That's an example that we could do that. So going forward, I believe if we move from number 3 to number 1 and say, let's work together, let's find a way to put people back to work. So that's kind of where I'd like to see us go, and I'll answer any questions on that as well.
Okay, thank you. Just before we do, we've got Councillor Iannone, then Councillor Wing. I just wanted to clarify with Mr. Todd, are the order that these are they in any specific order, or what is the status?
Mr. Mayor, they were really in no specific order. We can change the order up there. We view them as a package of 8 priorities, but if the council wants to raise that up to the top of the list, that's fine with us. We viewed it as more of a package than anything.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Gates.
Just to that point, the reason why I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's how you did your presentation. So that's kind of where I got that from. So that's why I thought it'd be important to move it up.
Okay, fair enough. Councillor Iannone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's what I wanted to ask. If I remember correctly, we've done strategic planning before, and we didn't put any of them in a specific order. It just kind of went in and on what our top priorities were. But what I'd like is more a report from staff in regards to Councillor Gates' recommendations. I understand if we are going to hire contractors or we are going to do something, that we can taper how we look at things. I don't have a huge understanding. I understand Buy Canada, but I'm a little confused in, are we entering into protectionism? Are we tying the hands of our developers? Have we gone to our developers and said to private developers, oh, by the way, this is what we're going to do? I don't really understand it. I hear them say it, but I've never looked into it myself. Maybe I prefer a report from staff that says, can we do it? What did St. Catharines do? What did other municipalities do? Or I remember us vaguely having a discussion around this table in regards to only using local help, and then what happened, that becomes protectionism, and then when our trades are answering RFPs in Toronto won't hire our trades because we have refused to hire Toronto trades. I know Councillor Gates also has a kilometer based here so that we don't hire. I don't know if we can even legally do that, but I don't understand enough of it to not be to vote on that now. So I'd like a report back from the staff. I saw the clerk was going to stand up because I'm vaguely remembering we had this conversation at one point. Can we do this? Do we have to let our developers know? What's it going to entail? To me, I'd like to be more informed before I include that in here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just for the purposes tonight, I think what we'd like to see is that if we move forward on the adoption of the strategic priorities and items that we put forward tonight, once approved, that will be the direction to staff. If you look at the one in particular, it says to review corporate policies and practices to encourage support of local business and workers. So what we'll do is we'll have a staff report prepared through the clerk. He will put that together with legal. Once we get this direction tonight, that'll be the go-ahead for them to start reviewing that, and we can come back with a comprehensive report and have all of that information in front of you. Then we can debate the issue at that time.
Okay. Councilor Ioannoni?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the comment on $70 million out of Niagara, if I understand correctly, because the federal control money involved in the convention center, they had to do an RFP process. So done by tender. You're not, if I understand that correctly, maybe somebody on the board can explain that to us, but you could not just keep local trade. If I'm understanding, businesses that not RFP from Toronto hired local trade when they got here. So I'm not sure if $75 million was left, but was there an option to do something different? Like, could we have done it different?
Listen, as I see from city is room. George, you may come into the podium. Yeah. Through your worship, through the process we did as a design build project, and we had various bidders bid with design build. It's stipulated price that they're bidding on. So what happens is the general contractor goes out and says key component of the product, the tender, like structural steel, mechanical, electrical, and so we chose based on those RPs. That's how it's conducted. Every opportunity we had, we always encouraged the contractor to use local trades, local businesses, at least get the opportunity to quote. And we did provide council some time to list of those companies that are successful. Councilor Ioannoni? Could you have bid any differently, or did it have to be done by RP? Had to be by RP. Okay, thank you. I just don't people to think we didn't want it done local. It was totally in our hands anyway, but it was done based on rules put towards so that they could. Yes. Am I understanding that? Thank you. Okay, Councilor, Councilor. How many contractors did? Are there any local contractors that in the general, there were no locals. There were general, but it was, I think, in one of the bids, there had been one of these subcontractors. Yeah. But was anybody large enough in the community to take on that type of jobs? Like, the RFP was done with us. How many times did we ask you during the last council term, how many jobs can we get locally? Having used local contractors, both the convention center and also the arena, the health center. Tell the story about this, which again, another town contractor, and one we had very difficult time to get local people involved, and it was brought on organizations. That was through RFP process. So again, it was an open process that I had a chance to bid on. It was the Gale Center. I wasn't directly involved in that project, but we did work with Parks and the program management. The opportunity was provided for companies today, and they tended for that work. And of course, I do believe that there were local companies to get some of the work, but the general contractor again was sometimes the area. Again, it's an opportunity now we try to encourage the contractor to, and we as well, with products, we provide a list of companies, we have a list of local companies, and depends whenever they're a portion of the job up, we provided that to the general contractor, they had that information. Actually, we did discussions with the local trades in cooperation with OLG and the contractors to provide them documents on local companies. And sometimes jobs are quite large, and so it helps when some of the local companies can actually join forces and bid on these projects together, because components are pretty substantial. Well, casino is probably a time and have to really local people involved. That's extremely frustrating. The last two, the Convention Center and the Hill Center, try to get local people involved, to get local trades involved. I think we got lip service, and that was unfortunate, and it's because of the system, the RFP that was carried out, and it gave us little control. Not saying that something that we're directly involved in, you can't specifically say local people are going to be involved. Those circumstances is extremely difficult, but other ones in control. Why wouldn't we? Every time that we heard that around the table, make sure we hire local people, make sure local firms are involved. One even used to go so far on the tendering process when it came for sewer water projects and other development, that a local firm with this was in a reasonable amount of the old tender, even though they were high or $10,000 more, and with a lot contract, we actually choose a local contractor over somebody out of town. And we actually had the association come here for this council and say, whatever you do, when there's a low tender, when there's a legitimate tender call, the low tender is a job, when it's 10 cents less enough, because every time you change and you dig for that, we had to bid on the job out of the city, out of the area, we had come off anyway. So please, have a ring system that's fair and equitable and give it to the lieutenant. They came back as specific. We've got Councilor Carey, Councilor Gates.
Thank you. Follow up on Castoni's, he said, I don't remember this. I remember it. I can tell the year it was 2005. It was me who stood up, but, we've John here in the Well area. It's a local business. I've probably been a people from Niagara Falls. We should be finding to give preference to that company for the good that are manufactured here in Niagara when we buy that sort of equipment machinery. And I couldn't even second it, of course. Years gone. Those jobs are gone in the region, those taxes gone from the original budget. And maybe we can't do services, but why can't buy Canadian goods whenever possible? And I remember talking to somebody in Welland a few years back who was really upset. There's a big infrastructure project going on, and they're putting pipes in the ground that have been purchased from somewhere overseas. Like, well, why couldn't Atlas be around and manufacture this stuff up from our own company? So I think maybe we can't get away with the service, maybe with goods we can try to buy regionally or provincially or federally, like by Canadians. So I think Councilor Gates is really on an important factor, and I think we should be referring these ideas to staff so they can come back with a report. If we adopt economic quality as one of our strategic priorities, those can help support that and move towards this. Well, I'm really happy with or these scouted. What I gain on is the usual number one, infrastructure, sustainability, and financial sustainability. Those have always been very important. And I think about a healthy community and a well-planned community. I talked to our website about that environment and protecting our agricultural trends, and so I just see everything here that I would like to see happen reflected in this document, and one times I'll be happy to do this.
That's great. Also, as you mentioned, the CEO, we spoke of review code policies to encourage local business. It's right in this when we do, and as well, it was suggested the CEO will ask for staff work on, on that specific topic. So we'll definitely break down further. Count Carey. Thank you, Worship. Just to let the council know, maybe some of the other people that are watching, obviously this council had on top of this from asking for as much low and Canadian content in those construction projects as possible. As of late, being on board of the NCC, we have even stopped talking about expanding the existing contractor contract through extras so that we could have some contracts after the bill is completed. We're going to need extra say if we're going to do anything else other than have included in large contract, or rather having extras into the large contract. We've had the discussion around the board and table to have these contracts done after so that local people would have the opportunity to done. And our council gate is hope that's great and we can, everything being equal, we'll always try to local bid and promote the local people for their job. So the convention center board is doing it now, trying to put some in the future together in small bits of jobs that local people could award bid. And in the future, if we have the opportunity, the way that we can give people an opportunity is to make larger jobs, break them up in smaller sense, so that our local contractors can afford bid, as opposed to a large contractor or a large contractor where maybe there's no one that bid it. And for those at home or the audience, in Trip here, it's called Scotiabank Center, well, the convention center. Here we're RFP, people ask, what's RE? And that's request for proposal, the apps that we're hitting around the table. And then next up, we've got sort of gates, and then looking for a motion to the strategic.
Thanks, Jim. I wouldn't mind asking Nerge a couple questions to go back to Councillor Thompson. The guy got the bid was field of, I believe, the Toronto area. You want to come to
Mr. Fellows, would you like to come up and
thank you to the Bristol people at home could hear the comment on. It wasn't designed. I have spent a great time talking to Sir phone over the last week, get information on just content was locally, what was done locally. I heard that. I haven't received it, but I know it makes some time to do that. But I'm going to give you the point. Sonfield gets it on bill. They have the right to subtract the work. One of the subcontractors that my understanding that was part of the bid was ESX, which is Field then what they used was carpenters, they used laborers, and they used greater engineers. My understanding is locally done. What they didn't use was electricians that were about 60,000 man hours and contract work $20. What they did is 28 to 30,000 of man hours, which was $10 million. And then when you take down sheet metal, it was 28,000 man hours and 10 million contract. And the reason I'm raising this thing was built during recession. A lot of people were out of work. I have a number of us that went to the council on what we're saying, why it's done locally. We have the opportunity. I don't want anybody to be confused. Field did the design. It was a unique way to the convention center. We understand. They also had opportunity if they chose to use low-wage people. That was one what they chose. There's a letter actually from us, Mayor, asking to that, and they said too late. They had already had commitment to outside companies. So I'm saying, on a go-forward basis, we can't fix the problem or the casino problem, the convention center, or anything. We have to work. And that's what I'm saying. That's why it has to be the number one issue. And to your point, I understand it. All I'm saying is I've got a lot of some people that would have liked there. They live, they pay taxes, an opportunity. We're talking about a sales and entertainment facility, part of our plan, Lord. Maybe something that we can say, get local people. How do we get apprenticeships for our children and our grand? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not here to think bad about any. I'm here to say, listen, I think we could do better. We're all excited about it. We're happy. What we're going to do on a go-for-it basis because this is our 4 years. Why not take it doing this maybe a little? And to Kim's thing about I did mention some of the names. Toronto, Hamilton, Sudbury. There's a number that put rules and regulations in place, help local work get jobs in the local community. And I think that's what we want around here.
I don't think it's said us taking a look at 4 bases and other things to get some more local parking. That's what's going to do. And I'm hoping that the entire group here will support on a go basis so that we can get the unemployment rate down from 9.7%, third in the province, get our young people, 13.9% of them without jobs back to work. And that's what I'm trying to do. I believe we can do it in our own tax dollars when we do these type of budgets. And thanks very much for being a few minutes.
I think we just get a comment from this fellow city. So again, for those of us that don't understand design build, place, well as maybe you, when a country comes forward and they make a bid, do they already come to the table with their chosen bidder typically, or how does it work? How much flexibility do we have? In terms of design build, because we're asking the bidder to do is the stipulated price with set price for jobs. So when bid, they go and get their sub-trades, the large sub-trades, council trades identified, electrician, mechanical, electrical, structural steel partner. So they'll contact that the general contractor price. So that in stone, when you put in bid, all those components are the bid that you accept. So because they've made a commitment to the contractor on stipulated price. After the fact, if they win, there's probably legal documentation between the general contractor and those subtrades. He can bid it out. But there's other work within that job they can. But the large components are part of a stipulated price because it's a guaranteed price. And with the line build, the other component you look at is the design, of course. And we bonded proposal, we ended up being more square foot in terms of convention center. And I think what Councillor Kerr was referring to, there's additional work at the next phase that can be done, not by this contractor, but others, and mostly it'll be tendered local companies of it just a bid. Or other components, you can provide the list of those businesses that got work from to council once again. But yeah, with the design build, large components of that project are knitted. Okay, let's get to stipulated. Yeah, much, and then we've got comment from our council. Sheila? We actually, to a certain extent, one thing we have done already that will feed into council's proposals is that if the contract governs that building, we have it set up so that the kind of thing Councilor Kerry as in mind could take place. If the contract is originally submitted to us before we it's modification to it followed, you end up with the contractor actually control the full, he'd control the design building going forward, so that would mean every time we wanted to, the material worker, walls, we'd have to go to him again. So that is out of contract side. So the flexibility that Councilor Kerry was advocating is available to us going forward. So that's something that she during this process already that fits into the sort of now that the Sir Gates is generally okay. Mr. Dan, Councillor Iannone and Councillor Marco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank Councillor Gates for trying to uphold his campaign promises. I didn't make one. I didn't paint on great jobs. I kept on doing A, C, or D. I think every campaign ad I read started with no promises. Because this is so fluid, it changes by people around this table, it changes by the information that comes to us, just by the thing here from some. It's fluid, take a promise, stand here, and need other people to back on it. What I do think is that count tries, I think we have to, under Councillor Gates' comments, try to do everything we can in the things we can control. And while Councillor Gates was talking, I turned to our city solicitor said, could we control who can't feel tired? Have absolutely zero control. Just we have zero control private developers here. There is different on the floor that we staff work in regards to whether we can or cannot implement suggestions made before you move the desk. What I want to make sure is what can we really do not to enforce. I have from private developers said, I want Toronto jobs, I want to bid Windsor jobs, I want my company to be able to anywhere. I'm going to have my guys work in Falls. That would be nice. That's not the reality of the economy right now. So I need to know about all these things. It's not my back.
So I don't want people to think that everything we can, because I only vote for two things I have control over, and is not field high. Thank you, Marco. I just want to also make sure that to achieve some of these goals we've set out, that our app is also going to work with other levels of government and organizations to source out their funding that might be available, like transportation, or any grants, whatever we could possibly get. And I think also to work some of the organizations such as the RTO as well states that look at branding. I think it's a good group of tourism people out there are very important to actually help get that brand out, as well as when we talked about China, the destination status of China. I know that that's been approved, and I think that that's another place where TO and staff can be working to help make that happen.
Absolutely. Thank you. Right, I believe we already have one on the floor for, no, have it yet. Okay, I'll go for motion of we heard it through the, bring the corporate policy and practice to encourage, I'm sorry.
Our motion is staff in regards to, and council
Okay, we up here, so it's no problem. So into the corporate policies and practices with business and local content, right? Okay. Under the economic reality aspect, is there any comment on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. And we're looking for Councilor.
I don't believe I put a motion forward. You know, it's not supposed that we move the number 3 to number 1.
Why don't we make all in one? So will Councilor Gates motion to approve the vision, mission, and strategic priorities, putting number 3 to the top of the economic vitality, the top of the list. Okay, we've got a second or some Morocco. Discussion on that. All in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Our next budget 2011. Then we've got a presentation from Mr. Harrison. Very much anticipate his presentation. Thank you, Mr. In the package, and it is just a presentation of the work that's gone on, and just a quick review of the 2011 budget. And we established a little bit of modification to the process. The council has to review and approve the budget, or all 3 budgets actually. So the very first thing is that, as you know, and as Councillor Thompson aptly pointed out, we're a little bit behind, and this usually happens in years following an election with a new term of council. This year, the budget, we're tying it into the strategic initiatives which you just passed, so there may be some overlap in some of the areas of the initiatives. As you're aware, the budget is really council's financial plan for the implementation of the strategic initiatives that you've approved. There's 3 primary financial implications of the strategic priorities that you approved. The first would be fiscal or financial sustainability, affordability, which is always on everybody's mind, and the efficiency and effectiveness of the services that we provide. On the first element, the financial sustainability, this really means the city generates enough revenue to meet its obligations. And as I would like to point out, that the obligations have changed somewhat. With the emergence of the new accounting rules in regards to capital asset accounting, council has a barometer through amortization that provides an accounting framework for whether we're reinvesting enough into our infrastructure and our assets. It's now
What are the core services that we provide? What are some of the services that maybe are not within our core jurisdiction, but that we do provide? And what's the premium we pay for those? The second would be to look at and identify what our true operating costs are. As those of you that have sat on council for some time now know, the city is a combination of multiple businesses. We run arenas, we operate a cemetery, we provide vital clerk records, we provide marriage licenses, we enforce bylaws, we build roads, we fight fires and provide various other services. Each of those have different operating costs and different drivers, and it's important that we take a look at what those are. And like I also said, the third item is what is our long-term capital needs for the services that exist today, and that those are measured by the amortization, although amortization really doesn't measure what our replacement cost is, but it is a barometer for what we have on our books. And also those new services. There's been some talk through the strategic initiative of enhancing services like transit and various other areas of the city's operation. And what is the capital cost of those? So the next slide deals with affordability. What are our sources of revenue? Two primary sources of revenue: your non-tax revenues, which includes things like user fees, payment in lieu of taxes, which is other levels of government that own property within the municipality pay us, in some cases like taxes, in some cases compensatory agreements, in some cases they pay us different models. We have sales of our services and sales of land, and we also have government grants and other funding from other sources. It's our responsibility to maximize these non-tax revenues, because it really truly comes down to the affordability of property owners to sustain the corporation and our expenditure needs. In Niagara Falls, we're unique and we're blessed with having such a significant commercial assessment base. There's not a community that's the size of ours that has the commercial assessment base that we do. And while we talk about affordability to property owners, we have to be cognizant of the affordability to commercial property owners. We talk longingly of the change from the industrial base, which used to be such a significant portion of our assessment base. And in Niagara Falls, we are equally dependent on this commercial base. So it's something to be aware of as we talk about affordability. We know that there's challenges to the revenue. We have some assessment appeals that we're dealing with. We have provincial funding through the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund that the provincial government had previously announced that it was going to discontinue. This has been continued, and we were fortunate enough to remain some of that funding. However, in the long term, we will need to address that. And finally, the last financial implication of our strategic initiatives is efficiency and effectiveness. This was touched on briefly in your initiatives setting. Basically, the budget traditionally has been set on an incremental basis, meaning that truly the budget is council's decision on the allocation of resources. Incremental budgets provide that the historical allocation of resources still remains relevant, whereas the zero-based budgeting approach challenges those assumptions and reaffirms that the costing models are the same. It is good for organizations to take an approach like this on a regular basis. It is time-consuming, and it is something that we've incorporated in the longer-term strategy over the 4 years. It's important to point out that the inflationary costs of the municipality differ from the CPI. CPI for the last 12 months ending December 31st of 2010 was running at 2.4%. That's increased sharply from November, and it's been driven by fuel. Fuel costs have gone up 13% in 2010. And as an organization that snow plows and runs the transit system and responds to emergency calls, all requiring fuel, looking just simply at the CPI is not an effective tool. And lastly, performance measures. During this term of council, we are going to get meaningful measurement tools to provide you with some effective measurement on the services we provide. We've said this every year that we do not agree with what the provincial measurement tools are, and we will be implementing this. This is a better tool of providing feedback to council. So as we move to the next slide, we see that there's 3 budgets to approve. There's the operating budget, which is the tax budget, the utility budgets, which are based on user fees, which are the water and sewer budgets, and then the capital budget, which requires funding from the 2 other budgets, as well as external sources and debt. These are interrelated and will be ongoing at the same time. Just as a quick recall of what we did last year, in 2010, I don't know of any municipality that did this, but we reduced our operating expenditures by 1.94, which was almost $2 million. We started the process of differentiating between those groups that we provide grants to and those that provide a service for a fee. Our HR department started an attrition program. And the attrition program is meant to be an opportunity to realign staffing requirement and resources to meet the corporation's needs. There are many things that the municipality needs to be doing, but just adding staff is not a direction that the CAO has provided, and we need a tool, and this is what this attrition program is providing. We did get to the reduction of 2% by reducing our capital program. And for the reasons I previously mentioned about fiscal sustainability, a long-term program of cutting our capital program and capital funding is contrary to that goal. And lastly, we did have a levy increase, which was consistent with the assessment phase-in for our property owners. Just the chart here provides a quick overview of where we spend most of our money in 2010. You can see that municipal works, which would be logical, is our largest department at $21 million, or 23%. Fire, 18.9%, or million, or 20%. Administration, which includes all of our corporate services divisions, approximately $20 million. This is skewed a little bit for the discussion that we had downstairs about municipal waste management. That contract is expensed in that area because it's related to the waste management levy. However, it still is a significant area. So now we turn to 2011. And as we talked about, the election and the discussion of our strategic initiatives have delayed our process. But we haven't been sitting waiting. The CAO provided direction to all our department heads to look at their budgets, their operating budgets, and to provide to identify what the immediate operational needs are, whether it be staffing, whether it be in programs that were maybe cut previously that department heads believe that needs to be done. And on the capital side, all departments have been asked to provide a 10-year capital needs assessment. We have, based on these directions, developed an operating expenditure budget. We've also gone to our agencies, boards, and commissions and asked for their increases for this year, or their requests for this year, sorry. We've also sat with MPAC and we've received the updated growth and assessment for 2010, and I'm pleased to announce that we've had a significant growth of almost 1.8, true real growth in assessment, which will be a big factor in assisting us in moving forward. So as I stand here right now, we are asking council to provide us with some direction. We'd like to change the process ever so slightly as we roll the budget out for council's review. We recognize council's strong desire to have a significant impact into the budget process. However, we as staff want to incorporate some positive changes to enable better discussion and input into the review process. This is, after all, your budget process, and staff has requested some changes to the format. Instead of the traditional blue binder, which provides all the detail with very little focus, with all the departmental documents, we want to change that to a sequence of reports providing the same information sequentially that will allow you to better focus on the expenditures and revenues and the changes that we're recommending. And as I said, it's the same information, but we believe that the discussion will be more directed. We'll focus on expenditures by category first. And as you can see, Dean has put up the chart. Those are the expenditure categories. Obviously, we would lump in the like type of items like salary and wages and benefits. We'd be aggressively putting these in front of you over the next few meetings to get the budget passed in a timely manner. We'd then be looking at the non-tax revenues, seeing where we can enhance these revenues. And finally, rolling out of that, we would have what the impact would be on the levy. So, we think that you're going to get the same information. It'll be provided in a sequential format. It'll provide better discussion on the cost drivers on the expenditure side, provide a better understanding of the new revenue initiatives, and it sets up the departments and council to implement a more thorough review for the 2012 budget. Whether we implement zero-based on a corporate basis or by department. Going forward, we want to have some strategies that we look at 2012, 2015. As we indicated, 2012, we implement either a full zero-based approach or a modified by looking at departments and have a rotation through the next subsequent years. Continue the governance reviews of the council's boards and commissions. Continue to implement the attrition policy so that we can reallocate resources to where they're best needed. Rationalization of assets, lands, and buildings. This is a process that's been started under the Director of Building. Do a thorough review of all user fees. Update our reserves policy and strategy. Implement a debt management plan. On that last matter, as you recall, this past year, we've issued significant amount of debt to pay for capital assets that are long-term in nature. Moving forward, we're going to have to ensure that a plan is there. So in summary, this new process, we're looking for council to endorse the new process, and we'll be starting the next meeting and moving our way through, provide the summary of all the expenditures and the revenue deficiencies at this time, and move forward on the expenditure items. So, if you have any questions, Mr. Mayor or Council?
Thank you very much, Mr. Harrison. We've got Councillor Wing.
I like the idea of what Mr. Harrison has just described in terms of presenting the budget information with focused discussion. I just want to make sure the opportunity is there for those of us who wish to avail ourselves of it, to really get the fine detail of what's being proposed. I mean, we've had instances in the past with where we find out after the fact there were expenditures on lip balm and things like that. I just want to make sure, and I don't care how much each and every person makes. I don't need to see that sort of detail, but I do want to, if the ability, if I ask for it, to have the ability to look at the proposed expenditures on products or goods.
A comment from the CA.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I thank the treasurer for putting this together, and we did have a discussion with the budget chair last week and tried to formulate some of these ideas put forward to tonight, so we appreciate that. I guess what we're trying to do here, and to your question, our hope would be that if we divide it up on the object categories we have on the screen, for example, materials, we'd be able to take a look at materials across the corporation rather than department by department, or you will be able to see the departmental breakdown within materials. But instead of taking entire department budget, we'd break down by these individual objects, where we would get a good view across the corporation how that money's been spent, and is it being spent consistently? Are the same kind of expenditures that we're seeing across the corporation? And if you break it down in these segments, we thought it might be a better way to understand rather than the old traditional department by department scenario. So it's just a different way of approaching it. And the belief was that if each week we present a group of these, we would give you that material. It would be a little bit more manageable for you to get through. At the end of the day, you have the same file. We'd be able to let you kind of bite it off smaller chews as we went through, and that way could focus each week on a second, come with your questions and be prepared rather than throwing you this big binder with thousands of pages. Just thought this might be a better way to try it this year and make it more friendly for everybody going through the process.
And I remember a few years ago we had sort of an overview. It was some sheets and everything was color-coded in terms of high, medium, low priority. I thought that was really helpful. We could see that sort of thing as well, particularly in terms of how it relates to our new strategic priority document. If it's this, then over categories it as high priority, and it kind of fits it, and maybe and if it doesn't fit with it at all, low. That would be really helpful, so that as each wave of information comes forward, we can see what really isn't core, and a little concerned about the bottom line, what we could let go of.
Mr. Harrison, a comment? I recall correctly, Mr. Mayor, that process was set with capital budget where we identified the high priority capital items as medium capital items. Or again, we will, simply, I'm not sure if we're going to reinstate the color coordinators, but perhaps we're going to have that type of information. All of our operating departments are asked to prioritize their capital needs. So that would be coming forth as we present the capital budgets.
Yeah.
And if I may, just to follow up on that, what I've asked the director to do as we come forward is that as we deal with each of these areas, and this is kind of heading us down the path for future years on zero-based budgeting, but for example, under, let's just pick one, under contract services, if you use last year as a starting point, we then say, okay, under that one object item of contract services, what are the new items and what is the new spending across the corporation under that heading? So when you get that heading for that week, you will see this is what we spent last year. Here's what the new sort of items are, and we can go through all of the detail, but you're also right up front getting a really good indication of where the increased spending is year over year. Okay?
That's good. It gives us an aerial view with the ability to focus in areas that we need. We'd like to get a motion now to receive the report. Motion by Councillor Peter Angelo. I'm sorry?
I have a comment as well.
Okay. Motion by Councillor Pietrangelo, second by... Yeah, okay, second by Councillor Maves. Discussion?
Thanks, Your Worship. I noticed up there that Mr. Harrison had user fee review, and the only thing that I would request is that if staff is going to go to a user group and talk about the user fees, that it first come to council, even if it comes for information only. And that would be twofold. I mean, one, so that we understand what you're going back to the user group with, and two, so that when you go to the user group, at least you can say that council is aware of the change in user fees. I think in the past we've kind of gotten ourselves into a pickle by not knowing.
Councillor Ioannoni.
And just to piggyback on that, if they're going to sit with the user groups, maybe let us know, because some of us might actually like to go sit and listen to the conversation around the table. I don't mind if it's in the evening, and I'd certainly attend, even, making time through the day if we can. But we hear from the user groups after that this happened and that happened, and then staff says this happened and that happened. I'd sit there and listen.
Okay, comment, Mr. Harrison.
Yeah, to that point, I think what we're looking at is with user fees is to have some sort of consistent framework across the corporation as to what our expectations of cost recovery would be for user fees. If you were to take user fees across all of recreation, and the director, but I mean, we would like to have a consistent approach across all of our user fees, so that we had an established policy of, say, 35% of policy.
Similar in transit, what is the cost recovery on our operations? That's what we're talking about. So certainly those types of analysis would come to council, and we would want to get your direction into that matter. And I think as we go further down the line of refocus on zero-based budgeting, or just more focused on business planning, I think these factors will come forth to all of council's endorsement and comment.
Thank you. Got a motion on the floor to receive the report. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Moving on to mayor's reports and announcements. Begin by offering condolences to Joel Ralph, former Niagara Falls firefighter, on the passing of his dear wife Edna, and to Selene Tudini and Ed Rampanero, both of our municipal works department, on the passing of their mother-in-law, Agnes Tudini. We offer our heartfelt sympathy to your families during this difficult time. Recent events in the city. This past week on January 27th was Literacy Day. I was lucky enough to participate by reading books to elementary schools at St. Gabriel, Lallemand, the place that I graduated from many moons ago, and also Mary Ward at the Early Years Learning Center. They were all about 1 year or 2 years old. I don't think they heard a thing, but it was fun. The cake was good. I'd like to commend all the schools on their efforts to promote literacy. Sports Wall of Fame was yesterday. Councillor Gates was there as well to join me, along with some other dignitaries and an awful lot of local people. The place was packed, standing room only. It was the first time, this was the 22nd annual, but it was the first time it was ever held at the Gale Center, and everybody was really thrilled. We wanted to congratulate all of the inductees and thank Kathy Moldenhauer, Rob McDonald, and all their staff, as well as the Sports Wall of Fame committee, because they did a great job. They worked very, very hard, very professional, and everybody had a real enjoyable time. So congratulations. And some upcoming events. Heart and Stroke Foundation lights the Falls red. Thursday, February the 3rd, the Falls will be one of 50 locations that will be lit red to bring awareness to Heart and Stroke Foundation's campaign and their effort to support people and communities all over Canada. The Winter Festival of Lights as well will be sponsoring free skating at the TD Rink at the Brink that night, so bring your families out and come out for a free skate and support Heart and Stroke. Boys and Girls Club Bonspiel. I will be participating as well. It's this Saturday, February the 5th. What's that? TD Rink at the Brink. Is it? No, CAA Winter Festival of Lights, but TD Rink at the Brink. I know we've got all these corporate sponsors. I can't keep track of everything. Turn your Coca-Cola mic back on, please.
Coming up this Saturday, February the 5th, will be the Niagara Falls Curling Club's Bond Spiel, and I will be participating with Regional Councillor Maeve's team. And I'm not a curler. I haven't done it since high school, so this could be quite interesting. Yeah, hopefully I don't have to wear pom-poms if we lose. Anyway, we wish the participants a lot of luck. And as well, Niagara Falls Skating Association Ice Show will be February the 13th at the Gale Center. This will be their year-end event, and we're looking forward to support from the community as 275 young athletes participate in this final program of the year. Moving on to communications and comments of the city clerk. First item is Heritage Week. There's a request that the council proclaim February 21st to 27th. All right, moved by Councillor Maeve, seconded by Councillor Carrio. All those in favor? Okay, it's approved. Yes, Councillor Wing?
I just wanted to speak to it on behalf of the Heritage Committee. Heritage Week this year is February 21st to 27th, and as usual, we're having our showcase on the weekend prior to that to kick it off. It's the 12th Annual Heritage Showcase, as always, at Niagara Square, and this year's theme is Historic Parks and Landscapes, and I'm not sure how many groups from the community are going to be participating, but the weekend after Valentine's Day, come on out.
Great. Excellent. Thank you very much. Item number 2 is Heart and Stroke Foundation, requesting that we proclaim Heart Month in the city of Niagara Falls for February.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gates, seconded by Councillor Morocco. All those in favor? Approved. And item 3, 4th annual, now this one we're going to look for a recommendation, 4th annual Sun Life Charity Hockey Tournament. We not long ago had Mr. Lacroix here requesting the council waive ice fees strictly for the family skate portion and charity game in association with the tournament. They are bringing, as you remember his presentation here, they're bringing a whole host of Sun Life people from all over the province here for the event. Yes, and we've got a motion from Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Iannoni, to waive the family skate and charity game ice fee. It'll be during non-prime hours, so it's not a loss to the city. All those in favor? It's approved unanimously. What's that? Okay, thank you. Are there any additional items for council's consideration, Mr. Clerk? There's not. Okay, great. And reports. Councillor Iannoni, ratification of committee of the whole.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The following items are to be ratified from tonight's Committee of the Corporate Services Committee. The Committee of the Whole minutes of January 17th, 2011 be deferred. Under reports, waste management services, that enhanced containerized service to multi-residential properties be reinstated, and that council provide a resolution to regional council that requests that the base level of service and the cost attribution to the municipalities be reviewed for 2012, and that staff be directed to review the methodology of funding the waste management contract provided by the region, and that the region be urged to continue to educate the public on behalf of recycling. Under MW 2011-7, the winter maintenance pilot policy, public trails and pathways, that staff be directed to initiate winter maintenance services to designated trails and pathways on a trial basis as set out in this report, and further that staff gather feedback from various user groups on the results of the 2011 trail maintenance and solicit comments regarding future levels of service. Under MW 2011-01, the cemetery monument and flower bed regulations, that staff come back with amendments to the cemetery bylaw to allow for a 60-inch height, and that the flower bed regulations stay consistent but existing beds be allowed, and that staff investigate the unused section of Fairview Cemetery for larger monuments, and that staff propose a fee schedule justifying increased fees for increased heights and bring forward the proposal to the Ministry of Consumer Services Cemetery Branch. Under TS 2011-01, Fraser Street Parking Control Review, that parking be prohibited on the south side of Fraser Street and that it be reviewed in 6 months, and that staff assist the Comedy Club to acquire further parking accommodations, and staff report back to council. Under TS 2011-10, Montrose South Business Quarter Transcab Transportation, that the Transcab pilot project in the Montrose South Business Corridor be extended for an up to 6-month period. And I so move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Iannoni, seconded by Councillor Carrio. All those in favor? Okay, approved. The consent agenda, what's the will of the council? Councillor Carrio?
I move it unless some of our council paralegals want to review the other agreements.
Paralegals? Okay, moved by Councillor Carrio, seconded by Councillor Iannoni. All those in favor? Before we make the motion, yes, Councillor Mapes.
No, I just have one question regarding the trademark registration for the Niagara Transit. Were you able to find a solicitor in Niagara Falls to do a trademark? Or is that done through a Toronto firm? Does anyone know?
We do it ourselves.
You do it yourselves?
Yeah.
You can do it directly?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, super. Fine, thank you.
One-stop shopping. Thank you very much,
Don't
Councillor
let
Wayne.
those Toronto guys fool you into thinking there's anything too fantastic about registering a trademark.
Councillor Wayne?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the staff for giving council a short time complimentary iRide pass to check out the system, and I know both Councillor Iannone and myself have already done that, and I would really encourage the rest of the council to all do so as well, and to get a feel for what it's all about. I mean, one of the things I notice is we need to perhaps keep some of our bus shelters a little bit cleaner, but when I was using it, I was thinking, this really is an environmentally friendly way to go. And I checked with Councillor Aves, and yes, people who use it to get to and from work can get reductions on their auto insurance by using it. So there's what we've got to do is pick up on what the benefits are, the social benefits, the personal benefits, and really plug those, because there are a lot of really good things about having a transit system, and it really is, it's the communities, the community should be getting behind it and using it and helping us to grow it, because it's there to serve them. And as we all age and come to rely upon it, we want to have a good system already in place for us to use, because we're not all going to be driving when we're 80 or 90 years old.
Let's hope not. And if you notice any lady with really hairy legs on the bus when you're traveling, that's either Mr. Todd or Mr. Dren doing mystery shopper inspections with wigs on, so you'll know what's going on. All right, so we've got a motion and a seconder to move the consent agenda. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Resolutions. We have a resolution here for Canada Day. We have a motion to move that resolution to secure funding. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Iannone. All in favor? It's unanimous. Mr. Clerk, regarding the bylaws, are there any additional bylaws or amendments to the bylaws for tonight?
No, Your Worship.
Nothing? All right, then. Can I have a motion to introduce the bylaws, and bylaws be given a first reading? Councillor Pietrangelo, seconded by Councillor Gates. All those in favor? It's approved.
Bylaws 2011-13 to 2011-17 read a first time.
Can I have a motion to give the bylaws a second and third reading? Councillor Pietrangelo, second by Councillor Maves. All those in favor?
Bylaws 2011-13 to 2011-17 read a second and third time and passed.
Okay, new business. Councillor Morocco.
I was asked by the downtown people, business people, said if we could possibly extend the 2-hour parking for the month of, January's already gone, but February, because of the snow, and there's not a lot of business down there, so I'm just bringing it forward on a few of the businesses that I've actually went into.
Which street was that?
Queen Street, sorry.
Okay.
Queen Street. Because they had the 2-hour parking up until January 1st.
Well, maybe,
I mean, it's already back in place now, so I don't know. But anyway, I'm just bringing it forward because they've asked.
Okay. Councillor Thompson? Okay, so moved by Councillor Morocco, seconded by Councillor Thompson. And before we make the vote, we'll ask Mr. Dren to comment.
Just a comment on the free parking that started, I guess, in the fall. There was the downtown agreed to cover the cost associated with that through the CIP funding. So is that something similar that you want to proceed with, or just a question?
Yeah. So you're saying that it was offset by the CIP?
It was offset, and maybe just some information. During that time period, I think there was up to $25,000 worth of funds available to recover, and in actual fact, during that whole time period, we received about $10,000 worth of payments still. So even though it was free, people were still paying. So and so it ended up being about $22,000 that they had to cover instead of the 25 initially.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, did you during that period stop our policing it? Did we have our commissioners stop going to that area? So did we save in expenses?
Yes, that whole cost was including lost ticket revenue that would have occurred during that time period at at parking meters or parking machines. So that whole $22,000 encompassed all of that. But during that time period, we received $9,000 worth of revenue in the machines. So people are still, even though it was free, they were still putting money in the machines. Yeah, so that would cover that as well.
Okay, I don't know if we want to...
You know what, maybe if staff can just and check with the Downtown Business Association and just check. It's just I went into a couple stores. I don't know if they were speaking on behalf, but I said, okay, I'll bring it back to council just to ask. So I'll leave it with staff then to look at, if that's okay. And if you need a motion, I don't know if we can
Okay,
amend
or we
the
could do a motion subject to the Downtown BIA.
If you can just have staff check on that. Great.
Yeah, okay, Councillor Wayne?
Yeah, this actually relates to what I raised earlier about maybe in CIP areas we should be relaxing our user pay philosophy as far as parking facilities go. But there's also a difference between parking facilities, because I can understand wanting to raise the revenues from a parking lot that are required to maintain it, to sweep it in the spring, to clear it of snow in the winter, and there's a cost of upkeep, and you want to raise the revenues required to handle that. But on-street parking, I mean, we're snow plowing the roads anyhow. We're street sweeping the roads in the spring anyhow. Those parking spaces really are part of the roadways, so I just see a difference between lots and roadways, and why do we want to try and raise revenues out of a roadway when it's a little bit different than a parking lot?
And to that point, the argument is that if the businesses are busier, they're going to be more successful and expand and pay more property taxes, hire more employees. We're going to make it on the back end. And you're absolutely right. Councillor Thompson, and then we've got Mr. Dren to...
Well, if you don't, I have something.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, we're not trying to capture revenue from the street. The reason why we put meters on the street is to promote turnover.
Right.
And that's really what it is. Because what happens is if it's not there, then there's a monopolization of the prime parking spots on the street. And so what this does is it encourages turnover for those people who want to go, say, to the bank or to wherever. They have a convenient spot to park, and then they pay to be there. But it's really to promote turnover, and it's also ease of enforcement, because if you take away, you can always switch it out with 2-hour parking, but to ensure people are turning over, you have to provide more enforcement. So it's a double-edged sword. Do you want to give out more tickets, or do you want to just charge? So those are things that, as part of our strategic priorities, is that we were going to come back with a complete review of our parking operation, including enforcement, to bring back to council on how we do this, what areas need meters, what areas don't need meters. If they're not being frequented, we will definitely make a recommendation that they be removed. So.
Yeah, that's great. We'll look forward to that. Councillor Wayne?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I think it would be a lot cheaper to put up some, 2-hour maximum parking offenders will be ticketed signs, rather than putting in pay and display machines and having to maintain them, because you've got enforcement people walking the streets anyhow. So instead of looking for whether somebody's paid their parking or not, they can look to see if the car's been there for more than 2 hours.
Yeah. That's a great point. I'm sure Mr. Dren, when he's doing his report, will factor all that in when he's coming back with a report. Okay. So then that one we're not going to make a motion on, or we're not going to vote on formally then? Do we agree right now? Because we don't know if the Downtown BIA wants that at this point, right? So we'll wait for a letter back from them, and then we can, in 2 weeks, deal with that accordingly. Councillor Thompson, and Councillor Maves, and Councillor Carrio.
Yes. I have 2 items. The first one I haven't heard for a long time, but in the last 3 months I've heard it raise its ugly head a couple of times, and I think we have to be consistent here. And I have spent 17 years at the region making sure my voice was heard up there with respect to the Mid-Peninsula Corridor. The regional chair, for some reason on the way out, said that was a high priority, the Mid-Peninsula Corridor. Don't want to be political, but it was mentioned by the leader of the provincial opposition recently, indicating that if elected, this is something that he would pursue. And of course, I saw it in an interview in in the Bullet Media with the mayor of St. Catharines. I thought that this was a dead issue a long time ago, but I see it still comes back to raise its head here, and I think we have to make sure if it does come up at the region that we're consistent in what we've done for the past 20 years. Shooting a highway across the Mid-Peninsula corridor with 80% of the farmland being active there would be a total disaster, not to mention the tree stands and certainly the wetlands that would be affected, farms cut in half. And I think that most of us received from the environmentalists and nature people prior to this election, where do you stand on the Mid-Peninsula corridor? I thought that was kind of humorous, but I responded appropriately and suggested that it wasn't necessary. As you're aware, the highway, the QEW, is being 3 lanes all the way through. And one thing that most people don't know, the Department of Highways owns 4 lanes each way and could very easily and inexpensively on those lands in the next 20 years convert that to additional lanes. Taking people from Hamilton and shooting them over to the Peace Bridge, in my opinion, does nothing for economic development for St. Catharines, Niagara-on-the-Lake, Niagara Falls. And if you look at the traffic counts, they come to Niagara Falls. The traffic counts from Niagara Falls to Fort Erie drop off substantially, so the Mid-Peninsula corridor is really not needed. The argument was with the municipalities in the south end wanted access. That is being done by the expansion of the 406, which in my opinion is the Mid-Peninsula corridor. The economic environmental assessment that was done came back and very properly said that it was not needed at this time. 20 years from now, maybe they'll have another look at it with the GO train, the GO bus, and all the other ones. The drop in traffic for the truck traffic on the highways all indicate that this is something that is dead at this time. And personally, I like to deal with things that are usually going to happen within your lifetime, and that isn't going to happen. So I just want to make sure we're consistent as a council. We've sent resolutions numerous times to the region with respect to this, and surprised me to think that somebody was going to bring this back after all the detail that has been discussed on this over the years. So I just like to be consistent and indicate that this council still believes in the environmental assessment and that the Mid-Peninsula corridor is not needed.
Okay. Now, do we have a motion currently on the books, or do we want to We've done that one many, many times.
Yep, but I think we got to, with the new verbiage, we have to do it again.
Okay, well, we can reiterate our position. Motion by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Iannone. Councillor Gates?
No, I was just going to second the motion.
Oh, okay, all right. Councillor White?
And I'll be consistent with my past positions because I've always voted against those kind of motions. You know, Mid-Peninsula corridor does not necessarily mean cutting a new highway through farmlands and woodlands. It can be as simple as transforming Highway 3 and connecting to the 406 into a bypass route so we can get the trucks coming off the Peace Bridge up toward the Hamilton-Toronto way much more efficiently than having them come along the QEW past the falls. And, you know, we're all trying to get to work or wherever in the morning using that highway ourselves. That's what it's about. It is not necessarily a brand new highway. It may be simple as transforming parts of Highway 3. So I'll vote against it because I honestly believe that we do need to get those transport trucks. And they will pick up again when the economy recovers. The ones coming off the Peace Bridge to their destinations as efficiently and effectively as possible.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, if we're talking about linking with existing highways, I have no problem with that. but what they are thinking is a whole new highway system worth, and they even had a figure on it of $1 billion, and they don't have the money, so it isn't going to happen anyway, but I can't believe it's just being brought up again.
Okay, Councillor Wing?
I sat on the Transportation Strategy Steering Committee at the region for 6 or 7 years, and that was one of the items we discussed repeatedly, and my recollection is there was nothing really being visualized. It was a concept that was, of course, very much supported by the southern tier municipalities, and it was, whatever will do the trick. And, that's why there was an EA conducted, was to look at all of these sorts of things, all kinds of options. And, I don't remember, having some big route plan. There was just all kinds of options on the table.
Okay. So we've got a motion on the floor showing the city council being opposed to, did you want to say opposed to a new highway for a mid-peninsula corridor? Okay, so it softens it a little bit. And so rather than, like you said, an existing route? Okay, we're good with that? All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, we've also got, Councillor Thompson.
Yep, I just have, again, reading what's going on in the region, I think we have to be prepared, and I understand that there are discussions going on, or I don't even know whether it's been held yet. No, it's this week on NEDC. And how it's going to impact, and some suggestions from the Chamber of Commerce in St. Catharines with respect to governance, and also the how NEDCO carries on its activities. Some suggestion that there should be one economic development department at the region. I hope that everybody feels that Niagara Falls and the larger municipalities are important enough that we have our own economic development department. And in fact, if they wanted to save money, I would suggest that the regional economic development department be responsible for referrals to the larger municipalities and their economic development departments, and that the local economic development look after their own municipalities, and the region take on the responsibility for those smaller municipalities that don't have an economic development department and can't afford it. That way, everybody is covered. We get referrals when they're appropriate, and certainly I would hate to think that somebody is suggesting that Niagara Falls look to the region or to send Serge Filicetti up there to look after economic development from the region for Niagara Falls. Wouldn't mind if he was in charge of that up there. I think we'd do a lot better. But I understand that debate is going to be taking place. And the other thing that I would certainly like to see with the formation of the Regional Tourist Council, economic development is still sitting there in the Regional Tourist Organization, and I think that is totally wrong. I think they should be out of there. They did not become actively involved in marketing and tourism in the past. In my opinion, they were pretenders, and I think they should be out of there. And hopefully you can make that comment. I know Councillor Puttick was very actively involved in saying that, but now we have a regional tourist organization. There's no need for them to be involved, and hopefully we can retain what we have here, and maybe there can be some downsizing with respect to the Regional Economic Development Department. One short comment, I see they're talking about governance again. I would suggest to the CAO, maybe there's an opportunity for this council to have a debate on that and some discussions before it becomes a hot topic. It appears to me that starting off this term, it could be something that is going to come to fruition at the regional level, and if that is going to happen, we certainly should be involved. Chamber of Commerce again in St. Catharines suggesting maybe one municipality. Bigger is not the best. 3 municipalities wouldn't upset me, but I think this is some kind of a opportunity for debate and update our thinking on where we should be going, because after 40 years, maybe it's time for change, and maybe there's an opportunity to cut costs and streamline the situation. So if that happens, I'd like to see it. But I'd like to see a debate here on where we're going with that. Prior to it jumping out and reacting, I'd like to be a little proactive.
It's funny because governance is always the elephant in the room that everybody discusses afterward, but never during the meeting, and it's whispered, and it's an awkward topic, but it's on everyone's minds.
Everybody wants to save their job.
That's exactly right. We've got Councilman, but we've got the CAO would like to comment.
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, and I just wanted to indicate, just following up on Councillor Thompson's comments on the NEDC, and Mr. Felicetti and myself have actually met with the CAOs and economic development officers from St. Catharines and Fort Erie, Port Colborne, Welland, and ourselves. We are looking at putting some comments forward. We'd like to meet with the staff. Just wanted the council to know that, but the economic development officers are putting their ideas together, and we've agreed that the 5 municipalities that have economic development officers should be providing input directly into this process, and we're going to be doing that at a staff level on behalf of council.
Okay. Councillor Wang, did you want to comment?
Yeah, we just decided tonight one of the things we want to do is to renew focus on capitalizing on Niagara Falls as a brand name, and I think Niagara-on-the-Lake does a pretty good job of capitalizing on Niagara-on-the-Lake as a brand name, and I'd hate to see us lose either one of them.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with Jack Lightstone at Brock University, and he said the same thing. He said, I'd said 2 years ago, the most valuable asset that we have in the region is the name Niagara Falls. And I think that's a point that it's pretty hard to argue. It's the most valuable thing. And a healthy Niagara Falls will lead to a lot of healthy other communities, because as Councillor Thompson pointed out, they're all going to come here. And while they're here, if they can get a little bit of peripheral visitation to their wineries and the other amenities, then that'd be great. So healthy, it all starts with a healthy Niagara Falls. That's the beginning. We also had Councillor Maves. Councillor Maves?
Yes, Your Worship. Yeah, I can remember that far back. Vince was just wondering, can you remember what I was going to talk about? Anyway, I was downtown last week, and I had to visit 4 different businesses on Queen Street, and it was almost impossible for my passenger to get out because the snow was so piled high along the sidewalks. Now, years ago, they used to have machines go down Queen Street and clean those up. Is that being done today? I'm not sure whether the question is for Mr. Holman.
Yeah, we can ask Mr. Holman.
I'm pretty sure we still have those machines.
You still have, and is that being done? Because it was piled pretty high. And I know that tonight, I guess, or tomorrow, we're expecting to get a foot of snow. And I guess maybe this is a correct time to maybe inform the citizens that you can't plow everybody's street at the same time. So I think maybe you should send that message as well. But I'd like to know about Queen Street, if that's being done. Is that service still done?
We anticipated that this request would be coming in. It's the kind of thing that we have to do at night or on a weekend. Because we have to block off a lane of traffic. Other BIAs make their own arrangements, but downtown CIP area we've done some work for them in the past. Our first priority is to get the roads clear, and as time permits, we'll have a look at Queen Street to see if we can get to it sometime within the next couple of weeks.
So I would just there on the off day? Anyway, the other thing is, too, I think it should be fair, since we have this opportunity to let people know there's a lot of snow coming, and perhaps Mr. Holman can comment that certain priorities that we have, and some streets, they all get plowed, but eventually, correct?
As needed basis.
Yes. And for those at home, they do not start with the councilor's streets. That actually, it's the opposite. Is that right, Mr. Holman? Yeah, there's no way. And I see they've been spraying the brine down all day today in the streets, so they're preparing for the storm.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we've been watching the storm for a couple of days now. We've been doing some preliminary, some checks, and our staff was working today, make sure all our equipment's ready for the next 48 hours.
That's great. Okay, Councillor Carrio, and then Councillor Iannone.
One of the things I had, Your Worship, had to do with bus snow removal in the bus stops and in school areas where the children are dropped off. Do we do that as well, Mr. Holman? Snow removal in those areas?
With respect to bus stops, we've prioritized about 100 of the 600 stops that we have, and we have a contractor that goes in and takes care of those. Most of that work is by hand, and so that is done. With respect to the school crossing locations, that's usually picked up through our normal street cleaning process. So we don't have a special program for that.
I had some complaints about where the kids were being dropped off, and it was difficult for the buses to pull over far enough to get them off the road. So I don't know where.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we've addressed a couple of those locations. If it's convenient for us to do on the route, we typically just pick up the snow and move it to some other location. We don't load it in a truck and take it away. But we're getting to the point now where there's really not a lot of room to put the snow anymore, and sometimes we make more of a mess. Again, we'll have to look at each situation on an as-needed basis. In some cases, the school's contractor clears the bus loading areas. In other cases, it's up to us to come by on a reactionary basis and tidy it up. Again, as these situations arise and as the resources are available, we'll do our best to get to these spots as soon as we can.
Thank you. The other one I have, Your Worship, is I received a letter from Michael Thibodeau, President of the National Congress of Italian Canadians, looking for this council's participation and help. In June, the Premier of the province of Ontario has unanimously declared June Italian Heritage Month, and they're planning a bunch of activities, social events. They're looking for Niagara Falls to participate, and they've asked for me to turn this over to your office and to the council and see if it's something that we would be interested in helping with or participating with, considering we have such a large population of people from Italy. Yeah.
Did we want to? I wonder if we want to, ask Club Italia if they'd like to.
Well, I think that's part of it. It's in the letter. It's described to see who we could get to work with us. But I think if you'd like to
make that motion,
yes, to get our participation, and then I'll give it to you, and you could do it through the office.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Carrio, seconded by Councillor Morocco. All in favor?
Thank you, Your Worship. The other one I have is I saw that in the news today that Kate and William are coming to Canada in July, and I just didn't want us to drop the ball, make sure that we stay on top of it, and hopefully we get them to come here, and that you would be hosting them at some point in their trip.
And to give you an update, we did receive a reply from Buckingham Palace that they didn't say they were or they weren't coming. They thanked us for our invitation, and they just kind of left it out there. Then when we heard word this morning that they were in fact coming to Canada in July, we have done a follow-up letter encouraging them to participate. I can't imagine that they would come here on their honeymoon trip and not stop at the honeymoon and soon-to-be wedding capital of Canada, or the world. And we've definitely sent out the invite. We've gotten the reply, and now we've sent to follow-up now that they've confirmed they're coming. So we're definitely going to pursue that one. Thank you. And Councillor Iannone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last council meeting, there has been a change in the head of management at the NHS. Okay. It was very interesting to see that we sent our resolution on the Monday. On the Tuesday, you had the head of the LIN putting her full support behind the head of management of the NHS, followed by the next day by the firing of the head of the NHS and the hiring of an interim CEO. So I guess my question to you is, have you a meeting set up with Sue Matthews to discuss the position of this council? And if you don't, would you like a motion for us directing you to do that?
We have put word out. It's been through the media, through several media sources, that we're waiting to hear from Ms. Matthews, and that we look forward to meeting with her. Also, in the meantime, I will be bringing forward a resolution at the region, looking for regional support for parallel to the motion that we brought forward here at the City Council. So we're just working on sharing the idea with a number of the regional councillors so that they fully understand what we're trying to do, and that we're not trying to tear down. We're trying to repair so that we can build up. There's been those that try to turn it around and make it look that like we were opposed to everything. And we said, no, we think that centers of excellence are a good idea in a lot of circumstances, not for emergency departments and not for labor and delivery maternity wards. And so we do support parts of the HIP, but not all the HIP. So I will be bringing that forward. Yes, Councilor.
Yes, and I've had the opportunity to tell people, we have no problem with the St. Catharines Hospital. That site issue was off the table a long time ago, but we believe the residents of Niagara Falls deserve a full-service hospital. You cannot have a community our size and put through 16 million tourists a year and not have a full-service hospital, so I thank you for that.
Yeah, and like I said, we're doing a lot of research on this. We'll bring this resolution forward very, very soon. Was there any other new business? Okay.
Move in camera.
Yeah, move in camera. Seconded by Councilor Morocco. All in favor? Okay. We'll resume in Committee Room 1.